Wander lieb ich für mein Leben, lebe eben wie ich kann. Wollt ich mir doch Mühe geben, passt es mir doch gar nicht an.
Dear Diary, darkness is all around me, and I am making my way through a tunnel that twists and turns and starts to get smaller and smaller. I am reduced to a crawl. Is it death that I am crawling towards? No, it cannot be. I, Anastasia, have escaped from Siberian prison, and this tunnel is the only way out. It has to be. The tunnel has come to an end, and I have fallen on wet grass. I see a dim light in the distance. I follow it. It leads me to a tiny society, a farm of some sorts. The farmer spotted me. Cold and hungry, I stumble onto his farm. It was here that the farmer gave me food and shelter. In exchange, I was assigned the mundane task of tending to his chickens and hens. I was responsible for cleaning the cages and distributing the feed. Tending hens, at first, might seem like an easy job. But these were no ordinary hens. These hens were human-like. One would think that this would make them more intelligent. But this was not true. The hens had divided themselves into groups. It would seem that to combine brains would result in an increase in intelligence. Not in this case. Combining brains of negative value can only result in a decrease of intelligence. Let me give you an example. There was a hen with an enormous behind. It was part of a group with two other hens. One was a black-feathered, fat, lazy hen. The other was a yellow-feathered, frazzled hen. When it was time for me to distribute the feed, the hen with the enormous behind would throw a psychotic fit. It insisted that it was about to die from starvation, even though it had consumed 2 large bags of grain in the morning. The psychotic hen threw itself onto the floor, gasping for breath. The yellow-feathered hen rushed to its rescue and started to put pills into the ugly mouth of the psychotic hen. This only made the psychotic hen to have a bigger fit. The yellow frazzled hen immediately assumed that it too was dying from lack of food. Now both hens were rolling in the sand and kicking up a storm. The black-feathered hen looked on. It made no effort to move, for it was too fat and lazy. But oh, how it could cackle. Cackle, 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 cackle. It cried out, "Shut up! Shut up!" I growled. Cackle, cackle, cackle. It kept on going. Shut up! Shut up! At this point, the psychotic hen recovered from its childish frenzy. The frazzled yellow hen scurried around the farm, rallying up the other hens to attack me. I, Anastasia, could barely move, for I was cornered by a multitude of chicken-like humans. "Give us more food," cackled the hens. "No, never! You've exceeded your daily ration," I growled. The cackling hens began to feel exceedingly irritated at my resistance against them. Get out of my way before I stomp on you! Get out of my way before I stomp on you! I shouted. Suddenly, the psychotic hen jumped into the air and with its enormous behind hit the bag of feed that I was holding onto the floor. Now, if only its brain was the size of its butt, imagine the intellectual contributions it can make to society. But alas, this was not the case. Cackle, 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 screamed the hens as they ravished the grain like a bunch of hungry hyenas. Suddenly, there was a loud bang. The farmer had arrived and started shooting blanks at the chickens. I would have preferred real bullets, but this farmer was too kind. The chickens scurried as fast as they could, but most of the grain had already been eaten. I was left to clean the mess that the hens had left behind. The hens were sitting in the sun. Most had fallen asleep, for they had eaten their bellies full. The black-feathered hen had a swollen belly, but yet it was still compelled to eat. And with a loud cackling sound, it began to eat the mud from the floor. What sort of life was this? How could useless beings continue to exist? They hardly produced any eggs. And there was no slaughterhouse anywhere on the farm, so the pleasure of watching them die was out of the question. As I stared at the black-feathered hen, I felt an insatiable rage. A waste of life should not be allowed. I grabbed the hen and ripped its neck out. A bloody sadistic act is probably what most would call this, as I held the crumpled neck in my bare hands. But I, Anastasia, call this a random act of kindness, for I have just reduced the stupidity that is so dominant in this society. Feeling quite calm, I slept well that night. But again, I was interrupted by loud cackling. The black-feathered hen was still alive and was rolling in mud with several other hens. How could that be? I killed it with my own bare hands. How could it still be alive? Looking closer, I noticed that the neck was glued back on. This hen had reanimated itself. Cackle, 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 they screamed. Shut up! Shut up! Cackle, 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 they screamed even louder. Shut up! Shut up! I, Anastasia, was trapped in the land of the stupids, and exterminating one being was not the solution. I would have to destroy the entire farm. But what if they reanimated themselves back? It would all be a waste. The pleasure of wringing each hen's neck would only result in displeasure at seeing them alive again. Perhaps the best solution would be to leave this farm for good. This farm was only a temporary pit stop. After all, I, Anastasia, am a nomad. I belong nowhere as I journey my way into darkness. Anastasia.
Draußen in die Seiten reiß ich, weiß nicht, wo ich abends ruh. Manche Schöne macht wohl Augen, meinet, ich gefiel ihr sehr, wenn ich nur was wollte taugen, so ein armer Lump nicht wär.